Okay, so I was doing some stuff on Starfisher and I ran into something that was really important while working on life charts. I was basically translating signs and I found that there is a certain area of the sign Libra which tells you all about your relationships. This video is really important for any of you out there who have struggled to find good relationships. Uh, the Libra section of 25 degrees to 27.5 degrees tells basically why relationships end up the way they are. So you are looking at the chart of somebody who is pretty famous, and her relationships were known to be really public. If you look at this right here, somewhere around 27 degrees Libra, we're looking for the space between 25 Libra to 2730 Libra, right? So those are the two places that we're looking for. Um, this person has both Jupiter and Mercury there, and so in her relationships, she was known to have a really high-profile kind of public image um, dealings with her significant person. And those relationships were also known to be turbulent. Now, even so, Jupiter and Mercury are pretty good. They're pretty nice and well-behaved planets. But unfortunately, we're not all blessed with Jupiter and Mercury in our 25 Libra section. Instead, we have a whole bunch of other planets. Most of the time, you won't have major asteroids here because the likelihood that you have that is going to be really low. So in order to find what's in 25 Libra, if it looks like you have an empty space in your chart, you'll need to go to a website like Serenu and get your asteroids downloaded. Let me show you the relationships of some people who have stuff in 25 Libra. Now this is, again, these are asteroids that you have to download because it's going to look like an empty space in your chart. We'll start with this person here. Okay, so I've highlighted all of the asteroids which are there. Let me move this up here. There we go. I've highlighted all of the asteroids which are there between 25 Libra and 27.5 Libra, and you'll see that basically what this section of Libra says is I feel like I'm in a real relationship when X happens, and you fill in the blank with whatever these things are. So this person feels like they're in a relationship when they're able to portray kind of otherworldly brilliance. However, um, they're also pretty insistent on things, and they have a tendency to expose dark secrets, especially of the partner. This person has partners who often have different kinds of secrets, different kinds of problems, no matter what relationship she gets into. And when she's in that relationship, she's much more sensitive to hurt by those secrets. Now, you kind of want to pick only the good, but it doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, with all these asteroids here, you get both the good and the bad together in the relationship. Here's somebody whose relationships are much more positive. Basically, when she feels like she's in a real relationship or a conversation, by the way, relationships and conversations go hand in hand. You can think of a conversation kind of like a little mini relationship. And so if you want to know what the relationship would be like for a person, then you pay attention to how your conversations tend to flow with them in the very beginning, or just in general as far as how you cross new subjects. Now this person uh, not only tends to have sober, respectful relationships, tends to be pretty self-indulgent, has a good kind of plentiful environment associated with the relationships, and when she's in those, they have uh, they have a kind of social justice flair. She and her partner actually teach and they educate folks, and they have pretty good exchanges. Here's the relationship of somebody who, you know, these relationships is kind of interesting for hers. Let me show you here. These are the ones that I actually want to show you. Okay. Her relationships are basically positive, except for one particular thing. Um, Actually, you know what? I'm getting these confused. Uh, This relationship actually is not the one that's pretty positive. It's got a lot of negative components in it. So when she feels like she's involved, it is true that there's an air of being associated with fascinating surroundings, but she also tends to be more stern and she spends a lot of energy in those relationships. Um, there's an element of lots of power there and changing people and being charming company and all that other stuff, but uh, you can imagine if you're the partner here, this asteroid for putting your one-to-one company under your thumb may not be so good for the partner. The investing a lot of energy, the causing others to control themselves and kind of measure their response to you, the hey, you better step it up or be a failure kind of thing. Um, all of those can really damage the relationship even at its happiest, especially this last one. Epiaxia is definitely a troublemaker as an asteroid. It can give others hot blood and make them really, really angry, for better or worse. These all tend to go with this person's relationships. Now, in order to figure out what your asteroids are in this particular chain, you're going to need to download the whole 1,000 from a site like Serenu.com. Let me go ahead and show you this. I'm not affiliated with Serenu, but I love going there. Um, I use it. I subscribe. The subscription is cheap. You only need to do it once, and it's definitely worth it if you plan to use astrology to kind of get your life right. And you know, the $7 for a subscription is better than the $40 for a date going bad. You know. So anyway, because in most sites you're not going to find these. You just, I mean, it'll say sun, it'll say the moon, and all that other stuff. Look, the point is that you can take a look at how your relationships go by looking at the asteroids which are in 25 to 27.5 degrees Libra. Now, there are a couple of ways to address broken relationships. If you've had trouble getting into exchanges which were good because they were plagued by all kinds of extra stuff. They were happy, that's why you got into them, but they also had all kinds of craziness. Typically what you were looking at is a mixed bag of asteroids. There are ways to solve your relationships problems, and now I'm going to tell you two. How's my time? Pretty good. Okay, so let me tell you two ways to solve broken relationships from an astrological perspective. You've seen how mixed asteroids can definitely, you know, well, give you a mixed bag as far as relationships are concerned. And by the way, the reason 25 Libra is the section that does that is because Libra is all about one-to-one communication. It's about one-to-one communication, but it's feedback, one-to-one feedback with people, either over the short term in the form of a conversation or the long term in the form of a relationship. The 25 Libra section, if you've looked at some of my other videos, you know, corresponds to oppositions or Taurus, your values. And so 25 Libra shows where the value lies in a relationship to help you say that this actually qualifies as the real deal instead of just, you know, some other kind of friendship or whatever. Okay, so um, one of the ways to fix a bad relationship is to actually fix it. Another way is to get out of it. Let me show you one way to actually fix relationships that end up being broken if you really want to repair them. Okay, so let me show you the 25 Libra here of this person. This person here definitely has problems in their relationship, although, you know, it's just like the standard stuff. It's a mixed bag. You can see, okay, there's an interest in the body there. There's respectful treatment there. Um, there is kind of allowing people to be themselves in the relationship, but then there are also some negative things. This person can be patronizing. They are they act like a parent in some ways when they're in their element in a relationship. They also oh, this is bad. Now this one I know as far as this is concerned with this individual. Um, they're in the relationship, but they keep the partner at arm's length. What's that all about, right? So they never really connect fully, even though they're there. This is somebody who looks like they're getting into a relationship, but they actually are not. There's just some parts of themselves that they just won't give. So what do they do? What do they do to fix these relationships? Well, the way this individual, oh, one other thing I want to call your attention to before I talk about that is the asteroid Diotima, where you appear to strike a balance between two extremes of expression. And so this person can definitely have a kind of Jekyll and Hyde moment in his relationships. Now, the way you fix these is to actually take the negative asteroids and issue them forth on purpose. So, for example, this individual found that it was easier to basically take the asteroid Harvard here and Diotima and say, you know what, let's just have this kind of platonic array of kind of mini close friendships instead of deep attachments. Um, they found that it was much harder to enter into exclusive relationships which threatened to pull out everything that they had, and instead they said, well, we'll just kind of take it in a casual way. Um, so this particular individual, let me show you theirs again. Um, if they're inclined to give the other ones hot blood for better or worse, then it's going to be really, really important to focus on passion and the role that passion plays, either together in the physical sense or in the exploratory sense or whatever. They need to team up with their partner in order to show how that passion works. Also, this whole deal with causing others to control themselves and their responses to you, that's actually conducive to secrets. And if you really want to get something like that under control, this individual would actually benefit from some of the more um, control-based relationship practices, and that could be anything from like sacred sexuality to not so much couples therapy, but things where the couples do stuff together, which issues forth structure. If you don't partner with your partner in order to issue forth the structure with them, then you're going to get the structure towards them, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, now, what if you're not going to get a positive spin on these relationships? How do we know when the relationship is almost dead? Well, if you go over to 15 Libra, you can see what's happening in your chart. Again, look at the array of asteroids, and the asteroids in 15 Libra will tell you what the warning signs are when things start happening. And that's because 15 to 17.5 degrees of Libra is associated with problem solving. So when you're in a relationship and you go into problem solving mode, it's basically like you're saying, okay, I'm talking to you, I'm doing the one-to-one feedback thing, but there's this under the surface thing that I need to take care of. You can see that when problems start to arise in a conversation or in a relationship or something, that this individual tends to go to their cliques or their friends or their groups to help them kind of pull away from the relationship. They also tend to show more passion in order to perhaps keep it going. If you're in a relationship with this individual and she shows this kind of action, then that might, given your own common sense, of course, be a warning sign that things are headed downhill. This individual here, when the relationship starts to go on the rocks, shows a tendency to tire out the partner. And if they are wondering whether the relationship is doing well or kind of sliding, then they can look at the extent to which the partner seems to get tired of them. These are actually pretty positive for longevity in an exchange, but this one is particularly worth noting in this individual's chart. This individual has a kind of weird way of ending relationships, a sudden disappearance. And so that's, again, that's not very good. This was the asteroid of just suddenly going away. Also, this person seems to have a kind of downward slide. I was actually investigating these charts in order to determine, well, you know, if we know the definition of a good relationship, but we see where the relationships go bad, how can we get warning that it's about to end? Or why do certain individuals have relationships chronically end in the same way? Where if you're like, well, if you're like this individual, you can see why that would be. In 15 to 17.5 degrees Libra, This individual shows realm of behavior where you seem unbeatable, where your direction appears destined to prevail, and they have a tendency to have partners basically give up with them. And so when the relationship looks like it hits any kinds of problems, this individual with their partner seems to have the partner kind of not so much check out, but they throw in the towel and the relationship just goes downhill until it's over. Um, okay, so I've gone over time here. I guess the moral of the story for everybody out there who's trying to understand their relationships better, and you don't want to learn full astrology or anything like that, what I advise you to do is go to a site like sarahnew.com. Um, you need to get the subscription for that particular site. If anybody knows of other sites which are free, where you can just download a whole bunch of asteroids and their locations, let me know and I'll post it. But basically what you do is you look for the asteroids in 25 to 27.5 degrees Libra, and you see what those asteroids mean, and that basically tells you what relationships look like to you. And you'll find that you tend to have preferences for good relationships, bad relationships, and they all go together, unfortunately. So unless you have a way to really turn the bad aspects or the more negative asteroids into good ones, then, I mean, you might have more of the same as far as history is concerned. Um, Getting out of the relationships, you give warning to others, and you get warnings from others based on what's going on in 15 degrees Libra. And there you go. Hopefully you'll be able to use this to kind of find how to make your relationships a little bit more positive and fix those things that you have a habit of really doing regardless of who you're with.